How often do you stop and say, I wish I had more time? Now, this probably happens a lot more than you would like, but there are a few things that I've developed over the last probably 10 years that have really helped me to save hours each week. Now, before we go into these ideas I want to share with you, I must give you a warning. Some of these ideas, your natural reaction, your instinctive reaction, is to say, no way, there's nothing, I would never, ever, ever be able to do that. When that happens, you're going to hear this warning sign. That is a sign for you to just stop and reflect and consider that while what I do might not work for you, perhaps you could modify it so that it does work for you. Keep your mind open. The first one is to change your default from yes to no to all new commitments. Now, what I mean by this is that too often, because we want to make people happy, we don't want people to be annoyed with us or to disappoint people or to let them down, we automatically use the word yes to all new commitments. This is the biggest drag you will have on your time, because if your default is yes to everything, then really you're saying no to a lot of other things that you would probably prefer to do. The trick is to switch your default to no. Now, this I know is not going to be very easy, and many of you are already thinking, no way, I cannot do that. I have to say yes to my clients. I have to say yes to my boss. I have to say yes to my colleagues, my partner, my kids, my parents-in-law. No, you don't. You don't have to default to yes to all of them. You can say no to a lot of these commitments. Now, I am not suggesting for 1 minute that you say no to everything. That would be impractical and likely impossible. But if your default is no, it means that your level of expectation for a yes is much higher. And that means that you're going to be saying no to a lot more commitments than you need to do, if that makes sense, but you're going to be committing yourself to a lot less commitments, which means that you are getting your time back. Another tip to help you save time is to get outside whenever you have a problem or you just need time to think about something. Sitting in front of a computer is never going to solve your problems. Getting outside and moving is one guaranteed way for you to come up with some amazing ideas. The next one is an idea from Tony Robbins. Now, Tony Robbins, in his Time of Your Life time management course, talks about chunking similar tasks together. And that would mean that if you've got a lot of emails to do, you've got a lot of phone calls to make or messages to respond to, you chunk them together. You do them all together rather than doing them intermittently throughout the day. Now, you can do this also with your admin tasks. We all have a little bit of admin to do each day. You get them all together and chunk them together. So you're doing similar tasks at the same time. What this does is this prevents you from task switching. Now, theoretically, we cannot actually multitask. I know people talk about multitasking. There are certain things you can multitask, but when it comes to engaging your brain in terms of that prefrontal cortex and you have to concentrate on something, you know, if you're switching from one task to another task to another task to another task, you are going to exhaust yourself. You are going to find it much more efficient and therefore faster if you chunk them together. Just to give you a quick example, if you've done my Email Mastery online course, you will know about the Action This Day folder. Now, I know on average I need around about an hour to deal with my communications each day. Therefore, I block an hour just before dinner to deal with my actionable emails. What this does means I don't have to worry about email all day. I am monitoring it, of course. I'm checking my inbox in between sessions of work, but I don't have to respond to any email because I've got a block of time around about 4:30 where I sit down, put some music on, make myself a cup of tea, and I just deal with my email. It works every time because I'm chunked it all together. I'm in that mode. I'm in one app. I'm not switching between apps. I'm just in my email app and I'm just dealing with it. Get it all done. And that's it for the day. It's done. So chunk all similar tasks together. It will save you hours of time every week. Just that one idea will save you hours of time each day. Now, speaking of communications, how available are you? In terms of how many platforms do you have where people can get in touch with you? Probably a lot more than you could realistically manage. Because if you've got a Twitter or X account, if you've got a LinkedIn account, if you've got a Facebook account, then you've got messaging platforms within those. If you've got WhatsApp, Kakao Talk as we have in Korea, you may have Telegram, you may have iMessages, Microsoft Teams messages. There are tons and tons of channels in which people can get in touch with you. Now that's a problem because it means that you are now available to everybody at any time of the day, 24 hours a day. The key here is reduce your availability. Make it really difficult for you to be got hold of. Now, my grandfather had his own business. He was very successful in the haulage industry. One thing that he had, which many of us no longer have, is something called a gatekeeper. That was his secretary. Her job wasn't just to type his letters and file his documents. Her number one job was to make it incredibly difficult for people to get in touch with my grandfather. And I learned from that. I mean, being his grandson, of course, I would be put through immediately if I ever telephoned him, which I don't remember ever doing. But the key here is that he was very, very difficult to get in touch with. So he had plenty of time for thinking, plenty of time for focused work. He wasn't constantly being interrupted. Well, you can do the same. You know, one of the things that I do sometimes when I'm doing a conference for a company or an organization, they ask me to join a WhatsApp group. And sure, I will join their WhatsApp group so that they can update me on what's happening. But immediately the conference is finished, I delete that app because I don't want to have another channel that people can get in touch with me. I direct people to where I want them to contact me. Now for me, that's email because I have a system and a process for dealing with email, which means that I don't have to worry about, oh God, I've got to reply to that, I've got to reply to this, I've got to reply to the other. Because it is a drain on your brain and that means you're slowing yourself down and exhausting yourself. Where possible, limit the number of ways that people can get in touch with you. You will save yourself so much time with that one simple trick. Okay, the next one, we're gonna need a warning. Yes, that's right. This one, I know most of you are going to go, no way, I cannot do that. But I tell you what, it saves you so much time. Eat the same food every day. Now, I know, okay, I am not a foodie. This is really easy to me. I read a lot of books a couple of years ago on the best nutrition and diet, and I learned a lot about the kind of food I should be eating. So, Sunday through to Friday, I eat exactly the same thing for my breakfast and for my dinner. I'll tell you what, it is so easy. I don't have to be thinking at 3-4 o'clock, what am I gonna have for dinner today? I know what I'm gonna have for dinner today. I'm gonna have chicken and vegetables. I also knew what I was gonna have for breakfast. Now, I think most of us generally do have the same breakfast every day. It's the dinner part, or if you eat lunch, it's the lunch part. Now, I do intermittent fasting, so I only eat 2 times a day, which by the way is another time saver because I don't have to waste an hour or 30 minutes on lunch. I don't eat lunch. But I'll tell you what it does is that means now it's not just about that I'm cooking the same food every day. It's nothing to do with that. What it means is when I go to the supermarket, I know exactly what I need to buy. I don't have to go around, ooh, that would be nice, ooh, that would be nice, which really does drain your time. But as I say, I know many of you probably enjoy food and then like to have a variety of foods. Great, that's fine if that's not possible. But do try to stick to the same or similar kinds of foods that you eat, because that way you're not having to waste time trying to decide what to eat. Now here's one that I've spoken about many times in lots of my videos, and that is, before you end the day, make a decision about what your 2 most important tasks are for the next day. Now what this is doing is, this saves you time because you're not wasting time in the morning trying to decide what to do. Now, task managers are great. I use Todoist. I've been using it for years and years and years. I love the way that I can collect everything in one place and then be able to process it and organize it so that when I need to do it, it comes up on my daily list. It's great. But the thing is, at the start of a day, I'm going to have between 10 and 15 tasks each day. Now, if I don't know where I'm starting first thing in the morning, one thing that happens is I will waste 20 to 30 minutes every single day trying to decide what to start with. That is just an awful waste of time. What I'd like to do in a video, and I'll link it up there, I think I'll put this video right there, is that I like to, when I'm brushing my teeth before going to bed, I like to ask myself the question, what are my 2 things tomorrow? It's a brilliant little scheme because it means that when I go to bed, I know precisely what I'm starting with the next day, and I know what the other most important task is. The others I will do in between sessions of work, but I need to know what my 2 most important tasks are for the day. Today, record this video and also continue writing my book. Job done. And the final one, find the process, not the project. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, when you're building a project, there is planning to do, there's thinking to do, there's meetings to have. It takes forever just to start a project. And yet, most of the work that you do each day is part of a process. You know, pilots don't treat a flight from London Heathrow to Singapore Changi Airport as a project. They have a process, they follow checklists. When a doctor is performing the most complicated surgery, it's not a project, it's part of a process. They have a checklist for doing it. They know exactly when to start, they have it timed to the minute exactly what needs to happen and when, because it's all part of a process. They don't need to have endless meetings, they don't need to try and decide when they're going to start the project. And you want to be doing the same. You want to be looking for the processes. Processes save you so much time because you have a pathway to follow. You know exactly what needs to happen. Now, within the process, of course, there may be some variables. You know, building a car is a process, but not all cars have exactly the same alloy wheels. Not all cars have exactly the same interior. Some have leather, some have cloth, some have faux leather, Tesla, which really means plastic. But you know, these are there are variables within the process, but even then there is a process for each variable. But the beauty of processes is you know exactly where to start, you know exactly where you are in the process at any time, and you know where the end is. You also learn how long a process will take. I know, for instance, to make these videos takes around 2 days because I've got recording and editing to do. I've also got planning as well, but it's all part of a process that I follow each week. And that's how I can put out a video every week. If I treated each video as a project, I'd probably never publish anything, or if I did, it might be 1 or 2 videos a year. The only way that I can be consistent in pushing out content is to have a process. I have a process for writing blogs. I have a process for writing my productivity tip in my newsletter every week. I have a process for these videos and the podcast. Everything is built around a process because I know exactly how to start, where I am in the process, and when I need to finish the process. Find the process, stop looking for the project. This idea that any task that involves 2 or more steps is a project is a joke. It will stop you from being productive. Find the process, work the process. And there you go. So if you want to learn a little bit more about how to build processes, because I think it's such an important part of anybody's productivity toolkit, then this video here will guide you in the right place.